morning. So, like she mentioned, my name is Kyle Stoner, and I'm awesome. So, like she mentioned, my name is Kyle Stoner. So, before we get started, I want to start with a thought exercise. Think back to the first instance of technology that you can remember interacting. Maybe it was a TV that you had growing up where you watched cartoons every Saturday morning. Maybe it was the Nokia brick, first cell phone that everyone used. Maybe it was something different. But think back to that first technology and how that's changed since then. So we'll get into that, and I'll tie that back in a little bit later in the presentation. But before we get started, like she mentioned, my name is Kyle Stoner. I am a manager in Deloitte's controllership practice within Now Consulting Services. And I live in Hattiesburg with my wife, my son. Just want to level set kind of where I'm coming from. And throughout my professional career, I've had 8 years of experience throughout audit and then into finance transformation. And what that means is we help clients and we help businesses solve those important problems, ranging anywhere from M&A transactions to complex financial transactions, all the way through to AI solutions. And that's what we're doing right now. So throughout this presentation, what we're going to get into is we're going to go through generative AI. We're going to go through some risks. We're going to go through some things to think about when implementing solutions. And then we're also going to go through some practical examples. Once I get to the practical examples, Yatish is going to come up here and he's going to give some more real world examples that he's using in his lecturing at Tulane's A.B. Freeman School of Business. So, history of AI, before I get into that, so I give you a little preview. When do you think the concepts of AI started? Maybe some of you think it was recently. It was the generative AI using ChatGPT. That's been in the news since COVID. Maybe it was before that, 2010s, when data analytics as well as visualization were the buzzwords. Robotic process automation was the key that people were trying to use. OCR, optical character recognition, things like that. Maybe it was before that. From my notes and from my research and what I found is the basics for AI started all the way back in World War II with Alan Turing. Alan Turing used the supercomputers to crack the Enigma cipher. From then, it came into the experimental era, where they started to experiment with AI solutions and the computers, the technologies that were built off from Alan Turing. So the first chatbot actually was invented back in the 60s. Eliza was a chatbot that was created by psychologists to talk back and forth about feelings, and actually would have pre-programmed responses for different things that would come in, different prompts that would enter into the chatbot. Fast forward to the knowledge era. It kind of went dormant for a little bit, but then we go into the knowledge era, where supercomputers beat chess champions. Fast forward to 2010, 2009, where IBM's Watson ended up defeating some of the champions from Jeopardy. And then we get to the modern era. We get into today. We get to where it's going to become more commercialized, more accessible to people. We get to ChatGPT. We get to image generation. If you think even 2-3 years ago, ChatGPT 4 from today is light years ahead of what ChatGPT 2.5 or ChatGPT 3 were. The large language models that are influencing and speeding up all of this progress are expediting everything that from content generation to financial processes to reporting to everything in between. And what can happen in the future? So even in the last 6 months, ChatGPT 4 came out, and that is a more advanced model. It has less hallucinations. It has a more complex responses, more concrete responses. If you think back even to 2 years ago when image generation occurred, you would see the key to tell if it was an AI-generated image is you look at the fingers and you look at the teeth. Too many fingers, too many teeth if it was a human. That's changed. Advances are happening each and every day, and it's our job as financial executives, advisors, and trusted people within the community to use this technology ethically as well as use it to advance what we are doing in our businesses. So a little bit of background. This is a high level. It gets more complex. There's a lot more variation, but at a high level, how do generative AI applications work? So think of it as an infant. So me, I have actually a 7-month-old now. Before they learn how to run, you heard the old adage, they have to learn how to walk, they have to learn how to crawl, they have to learn how to scoot, they have to learn how to sit up. There's steps to it. That's the same thing with these models. So training occurs. Large language models are, LLMs are input. You use the data sources. For example, ChatGPT, the early uses actually used Enron data as part of their training. So you train that data. Their user inputs the prompts, so different users will end up, this is called supervised training, where users will end up putting in information about the what they want to know from that large language model. An output occurs, the user provides their feedback, yes, no, that was a good answer, that was a great answer, that was a terrible answer. The validated output, they check the output to make sure that it's what it needs to be, and then an edit occurs, and then it repeats the process. At a high level, that's how some of these generative AI tools work. There's also unsupervised learning, there's also multiple other ways, but the whole concept that I'm trying to get across here is that there is a process. It's not just ingesting some sort of data, it's not just nebulous, it's not just out in the open, or out in the open where nobody knows what's going on in the black box. There's a process to it. So they unlock new use cases previously thought to be too complex for traditional AI models. So think about it. The traditional AI models, they would give you simple FAQ chatbots to voice agents. They would do document extraction like OCR. And then there's also machine learning, where it would be kind of that branch learning, where it go from binary saying yes, no, this is what it should do, this is what it should do next. Now generative AI, those characteristics. Personalized channel experience. So think about, for example, if you're using Microsoft Copilot, they now have a function to be an executive assistant for you, which interacts with all of your Microsoft tools. So for example, if you have meetings throughout the week, you can ask it, give me a summary of my meetings and the pertinent emails that pertain to those meetings, and it'll spit you out what you need personalized for what you have. That's all based on that ring-fenced data that's within its purview. Marketing content creation. I've seen videos, and there are, and I'm sure many of you have seen too, where there are trailers and even full-length documentary, or not documentaries, but full-length movies or full-length items that are being generated by AI. That's going to revolutionize the way that we market. That's going to revolutionize the way that we go to markets and explain what we do with our businesses. Instant answers. So you've seen the Gemini, you've seen Google's chatbot, or Google's version of AI, where it spits out the answers, where it crawls all the data that it has as a sort of more advanced search. And then policy and document creation. So there's tons of other examples that we're going to get into as we go through, but that is the difference between the AI of early 2020s, late 2010s, and what's happening now in the revolution that's going forward. And this has even changed to agentic AI going forward as well too, which we'll get into a little bit later. Like I mentioned, here's more of the applications. So automating repetitive tasks, transforming generative tasks, improving value chain decisioning, unlocking enterprise knowledge, and then new revenue opportunities. So value chain decisioning and enterprise knowledge is something that we're currently doing at Deloitte. One of the projects I'm on is we are taking financial data that has not necessarily been in a data lake yet, and not necessarily been organized or not necessarily been thought through by people within the finance world. And we are structuring that data, we are putting it into the data lake, and then we are building the visualizations and AI solutions on top of that. So we're using that company's data to help them solve those important problems. So for example, LIFO calculations, automating the LIFO calculation and creating dashboards for that. User risk review, so it's controls, automating control testing and automating that control process and control review process. Those are a couple of examples that we're using that data for. So this slide's a little hard to see, but I believe we're providing the slides afterwards. But this gives some different use cases across different industries, and I've highlighted a couple on here. So for example, fraud detection of financial services and insurance. I've seen that being used where they're comparing different documents or they're comparing different data that's coming through. In the past, we've tried to use that with optical character recognition, and that needs very structured data. It needs very structured, this is what the report does, this is what the report says, this is where the data is in the report before you go and grab it and parse it out. AI is changing that game, where we now have the ability to say, these are the keywords that we're looking for, find that within the data, or find that within the document, without actually saying, oh, we need to parse that out in a specific spot on it. And then you compare that back to the system data as well too, so automating that entire process. Going through the government and public services, knowledge management. So again, this is back to that data search within using multiple different sources, using multiple different documents. Things change every single day, and they're changing even more with different administrations. So you need to be able to update, you need to be able to look through those policies, and sometimes we don't have the time to go through all of 120, 130 page contract. Using AI to summarize that, using AI to pull out the key terms, using AI to pull out the bullet points needed. That's actually something that I did for this presentation. So I went through, created my presentation. I used a little bit of AI here and there for formatting and things like that. But then what I did was I took the information in the notes that I had from the presentation itself, threw it into Microsoft Copilot and Word, summarized it into bullet points, talking points, helped me formulate stories, helped me use the information that I have in my brain and in what I already know, and combine that with the tools that you can use for AI. So it's tons of different use cases out there, and again, Yatish is going to get into some of these, and I have an example as well too. But tons of different uses across industry. But we need to think: what are those risks? What governance needs to be in place for these AI solutions? You think and you've heard, oh, AI makes up things. That's a risk. You think and you've heard, oh, AI could be biased. Also another risk. So some things we need to be aware of when we're thinking of those risks. Like I mentioned, bias. If the training data is biased, so that large language model is biased, or the training that's happened with that bias, it's going to come out as biased data. It's going to give you what it thinks you need. I was reading a book, it was by a Wharton professor, and he's using AI within his classes. And he mentioned the risk of bias in those answers. AI tries to please you. The way that it works and the way that things like ChatGPT and generative AI works is it uses the algorithms and it uses the best guess on what the next word should be. So if anyone's used ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 3.5 in here, they know that, oh, if I'm starting to put in different information with ChatGPT, it's going to start to try and give you those positive examples. So those are examples of bias that you need to be aware of within the data that you use for AI solutions. Be aware of cost. Be aware of ethical use. So a lot of those public source solutions, Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, they are still learning using the data that's getting input. So be aware what kind of data you're putting in. If you're putting your company's private data out there, or PII, or any other information out there, it's publicly available now on that back end. So you need to think through, okay, what is the correct uses, and what are the correct policies that I need to put in place to protect that type of data? If that type of data wants to be used, do I need to now find an internal solution, or a solution that's bolted on to like an SAP or to an Oracle to make sure I protect that data and make sure the security is in place? And you think of the controls that are in place. That's something that we're thinking through right now with the data lake example that I gave earlier. We are trying to think now, okay, the data that is going into that data lake needs to be the same data that's coming out of the data lake. How do we put controls in place to ensure that? How do we put controls in place with the transformations that's occurring in there to ensure that? And those are questions that are being asked today and being solved today. So like I said, it's an evolution, and as things evolve quicker and quicker and quicker, we are trying to catch up and catch up and catch up. Hallucination. So basically, hallucination means it can make up information. So for example, I'm a big Southern Miss baseball fan, and there was a picture that went out before our championship, Sun Belt championship game against Coastal Carolina. Someone asked, oh, what will the final score of the game be? And the picture that was circulated around is that we were going to lose 6-1. Not really something that you want to hear as a fan. However, what it was pulling from and what it was guessing, those next characters, was from Coastal Carolina's last game. They won 6-4. So it made up or hallucinated that information, that data. So that's something you need to be aware of. There's always needs to be a human in the loop when you're using these AI solutions. There always needs to be somebody to be able to fact check, to control it. We're all accounting people in here. We know that you trust, but you verify. And that's the same thing with using AI. IP protection infringement, we've talked about that. Malicious behavior, model performance, confidentiality and privacy. Again, that goes with the data, PII information, creating policies around that PII and how to handle personally identifiable information. Text formatting, and then size limits of the solution itself. These are all risks and limitations that you need to be aware of as you're using AI solutions. Again, I provide a couple more guardrails around those risks. So we have the risks down the left side, but then we have the guardrails around it. Creating a secure environment or training those models on a secure environment. That's one way to mitigate those risks, like I mentioned earlier. Restricted usage. So making, just like with any other system that you're using, there needs to be ways that your users can use it. And what I mean by that is there needs to be different protections, there needs to be different user accounts, there needs to be different ways that you are protecting how users can use that data. If you want everyone within someone in your organization to use that data, feel free to do that, but you need to be aware of those risks. Enterprise data sets, making sure there's an audit trail, making sure that there's a way to track that information. Trusting but verifying, and then large language models operations is a reality. So the next part that I want to talk about is that risk governance. So with a lot of organizations that we're working with, they already have an IT governance organization. This needs to be part of that IT governance organization. Making sure that you're aware of those risks, making sure that there's different ways different controls and different ways that you're protecting that data, protecting your people across the board. So different mitigation techniques includes upskilling your workforce. That's something that we've talked about even since I began my career, is making sure how is your workforce transforming. Finding the balance between trust and the human in the loop, and then managing those different reputational risks. So using the human in the loop to help manage those reputational risks. Establishing those standards, and then fostering an enterprise culture of continuous learning and education to promote responsible use of AI. So the big question that I get asked from everyone, ranging from my family to my clients to anyone else I talk to about AI, is, am I going to be replaced? I don't think so. Quick question. If you were here, actually, I'm not gonna ask that question. But if a lot of you remember when Excel came out, when it switched from Lotus Notes to Excel, or switched from the paper to Excel, or anything like that, did the accounting function go away? No. We're all still in this room, and you all still have employees. It's just going to transform. The way that we work and the way that the skills that we need going forward and you need from your workforce going forward are going to evolve and change. I'll get into a couple other slides, but things like prompt engineering will become commonplace, will become something that you need to ask and something you need to think about. How are you able to use and interact with AI? My wife is a professor of marketing at Southern Miss, and one thing that she's done is she's incorporated AI into her classroom instead of running away from it. A lot of professors are trying to run away from it because they want to go back in the classroom, bring back blue books, bring back writing essays handwritten. But what she's doing is she's using AI as a tool. And the way she's doing that is she's encouraging her students to do a first draft using AI, and then critique that draft, judge that draft, reread that draft, reprompt using AI, continually using AI to improve those drafts, but bring in their own thoughts and what they're learning from. And that's going to be the same thing with our workforce. We're going to need to learn how to use AI within our day-to-day lives. And we're going to need to use that within our workforces coming up. Some of us are going to need people within our workforce to teach us how to use it and how to improve it. And that's something that is going to be very, very valuable going forward. So a couple of common challenges from organizations that we're hearing is how will Gen AI shift work to enable business outcomes? What's the right mix of humans and technology? That depends. Depends on the organization. Depends on what your organization looks like. If you're a smaller organization, maybe you're going to rely a little bit more on AI and to enhance what you're using from more of the public AI to enhance what you're using, enhance what you're doing with your workforce. What new roles and skills will my organization need? How should I organize them? Where can I find critical generative AI skill sets? When should I build versus borrow versus buy? Just like any other IT solution that you're using, any other solution that you're trying to find. When should you build it? When should you borrow it? When should you buy it? Should you buy it? How do I prioritize good use cases? And we'll get into some of those in a couple of slides. How do I get my workforce smarter? That's the key question. That's something we've always been asked, at least throughout my entire career. How do you get your workforce to get upskilled? How do you encourage that? And it starts with the tone at the top. That starts with saying, hey, this is what we want to do. This is the strategy we want to set. And this is where we want to go. I'm using it. I'm trying to learn it. I think you should too. And then how can I ease adoption and build trust amidst rapid change? So, like I mentioned earlier, AI enables us to be going from being reactive to being proactive, finding those next insights, finding what we need out of that data. Going back to that data lake example that I gave earlier, we are now trying to find, okay, what are the next applications that we can use and how can these data sets be repeatable across the board? That's something that we're going to continually use and continue to move forward. Like I mentioned, there's going to be more critical soft skills coming from the workforce. So what can AI not do? It can't empathize. It can't relate to anyone else. It can't manage other people. So those are the types of soft skills to look for your workforce and to also build within yourselves as well too, to become to make sure that you are not going to be replaced or not going to be replaced by AI. There's going to be more critical hard skills. So there's going to be things like prompt engineering, understanding what the LLMs are doing, computer vision, data mining, deep learning, quality assurance, troubleshooting, fine-tuning, fact-checking, anything else that you can think of that would need to come with the use of AI, those are skills that are going to need to be developed. And those are skills that are being developed like in Yatish's classes. And then things like less critical hard skills. So administrative, scheduling, basic communication. So things like writing those emails, things like that. Those are skills that we still need to know, but they're not going to be as emphasized going forward. So I'm going to skip ahead just in the interest of time. So to the meat of what y'all I think really want to know. How can you use AI in your day-to-day? And what does that look like? So AI can serve as a powerful tool in helping CFOs, executives, address key agenda items and complex challenges. So some of the challenges that you may face, maintaining the quality and reliability of large financial data sets, definitely using from different sources, maximizing forecasting accuracy, reducing the cost of the organization's financial footprint, and then driving regulatory compliance and audit assurance quality. And AI can help there on the right. So there's different ways that you can address some of those challenges. There's a lot of benefits in using AI in finance, so cost reduction, reduced complexity, fueled innovation, speed to execution, transformed engagement, and fortified trust. There's a lot of different ways that we can use these tools and use these solutions in order to expedite our organizations. Those are just some of them. So here's some use cases. So what we started with are some things that we've seen already in the organization, some things that we're still brainstorming. It's a mixture of both. But some of the ones that I've seen so far are, for example, investor relations. So streamlined data process with automated financial statement generation for external publication, as well as going through and then taking the next step and asking that financial statements and going through that data within those financial statements to ask questions to prepare for investor relations. Prepare for those conversations. So one tool that you'll see a little bit later on that we're going to show will exemplify this. Another one is within controllership, reviewing contract terms and analyze accounting impact. That's one thing that I'm working on another project, is we are now taking the contract terms for the different projects that this company works on, and we are trying to extract all of the data that relates to those contract terms, go through and find trends, find commonalities, as well as take that information to help us prepare and to improve the revenue recognition process, the policies that we were putting into place, the accounting policies that we're putting into place, using that data-driven and not just guessing at it, using that data-driven items to enable those, to enable that. FP&A, creation of data visuals and presentations. So we're doing that right now as well too. We are taking, like I said, that data lake, and we're building those visualizations on top in order to help with trading data for oil and gas commodities. We're helping that with other information and other projections that are out there. So these are just some of the use cases that are individualized. But what we want to get to from just an individualized use cases, or we want to get to an end-to-end finance transformation of the organization. And that's what you should strive to as well too. So you want to move from those one-off use cases to integrate and have holistic capabilities. So going from top to bottom, integrating AI within everything. And we'll see that on this next slide. So across the board, this is just building off of those last two slides. So saying, okay, instead of we want to do these one-off things, we now want to go through and draft the regulatory reports. We want to evaluate the current compliance and monitor emerging regulations. We want to be proactive in real-time notifications. And then we want to generate account variance analysis and intelligent explanations to prepare for those investor relations conversations. Going from end to end, using AI to touch every single point of the reporting process. Using it to generate your financial statements and work with other tools and solutions like Workiva. Using other solutions across the board to help you do that reporting. And then there's other items on as well on here as well too. So I'm gonna pause for a second, let y'all digest this for just a second, and then we'll move into an example. I'll tee that up for a second. I think Rod will provide his slides out afterwards, so don't worry about having to take a picture or anything like that right now. But like I mentioned earlier, these are just some solutions that are being worked on right now. There are hundreds and thousands of other applications of AI out there for your organization. So this next tool this tool that I'm going to demo here is a tool that we've developed internally. We've gotten permission to go through and show it to y'all. But essentially, to tee it up, it has multiple different modules for different C-suite executives. The one module we're going to go through is that financial reporting example where we're ingesting the company's 8K and 10K. We've got permission to do that as well too as a partner, and as well to go through and ask it those questions, to visualize some of the data that's coming out of those financial statements, to prepare for those investor relations questions.
Hello, my name is Diego Sainz. I'm delighted to be sharing with you a brief demo of AI Manage. AI Manage is Deloitte's AI platform built around 6 functional areas, 6 functional domains: finance, marketing, sales, operations, human resources, and legal. These are all integrated into a single application. Core modules include a set of prompt libraries. We have prompt libraries around 12 use cases, so 120 pre-built prompts specifically designed by industry and by client. We have an AI agent hub with 25 pre-built AI agents to automate key business processes. AI insights with 30 plus pre-built finance dashboards, visualizations, and reports that work very well together with the AI agents and the prompt libraries. And then to make it all work, we have a data fabric that has over 10 pre-configured connections to enterprise systems. The 12 use cases that we have today for finance are, as I said, a financial statement analysis, revenue analysis, procurement. We also have use cases around supply chain as well as marketing. Today I am going to focus on financial analysis of a new business. Business is Volkswagen solid-state battery business. Again, these are pre-built libraries here that we have that are designed and engineered by our finance team, and we work with clients to tailor to their specific needs. I'm going to go to the income statement. As you can see, this is pre-built out of the box, which accelerates time to deployment. So we have from revenue analysis, gross margin analysis, financial performance, profitability. I'm going to go here looking at revenue forecasting, as I mentioned, specifically around Volkswagen's solid-state battery business. This prompt is basically asking the model to look at the forecast to identify how it's evolving over the next 3 years across the regions, to analyze the product mix, and then to suggest ways to grow and expand within those markets, and to support the analysis with specific data points from the forecast. This is running live right now at the moment, and it's coming back with a response. So it did as we asked. It provided a breakdown by regional markets and identified China as being the fastest and largest growing market for electric vehicles, with a very clear set of forecasts, and then the same for the US, for India, for Europe. Looks at the product mix of the 3 types of batteries: long range, performance, and heavy load, and then opportunities for expansion. Notice here at the bottom is also generated a visualization. The visualization breaks down to 12 countries on a 3-year basis, and then looks at the forecast for units sold, revenue, and profit. This can be done either with a human in the loop interacting, or it can be done with agents, which is doing this in the background. Right now I'm doing the human in the loop. I can then look at related prompts, and I can look at a variety of different things. I can look at competitive analysis, looking at the competitor landscape for EV and solid-state batteries. I can look at supply chain and supply chain implications of scaling the EV and solid-state battery business. And then I can ask for very specific hedging strategies to mitigate price fluctuations within critical battery commodities like lithium, nickel, copper, etc. So let me just run very quickly a competitive analysis. I've done a forecast, and now I am adding the competitive analysis to understand the market as a whole. I've asked that the model will look at it in terms of range, charging speed, and cost for major competitors. So it's come back here and it's provided exactly that, right? It's identified the range, the charging speed, and cost for Volkswagen and its partnership with QuantumScape, and it's identified major competitors, including Tesla, evaluated across those 3 dimensions. Toyota is not yet available for the solid state, but it will be being launched. Same thing for Mercedes-Benz. And the other product in the market is NIO, the Chinese EV automaker. Notice here I can continue to have additional insights, whether it be from supply chain to risk management to specific marketing strategies in the high growth market. So again, combining cross-functional domains to provide greater insights. All this is a process that normally takes days or weeks. It is now being done in minutes or hours. If we look here, we have the ability to have at our fingertips a dashboard of our financials, so we understand the financial implications of the decisions, balance sheet, cash flow. So I have that at my fingertips. Also have the ability to do ad hoc analysis where I can really ask the data for very specific data points, where we can just start to talk to your data using natural language. So just very simple here. This is generated through GenAI. So the top 5 countries by total revenue. And then a very important feature here is the ability to collaborate with colleagues. This is a collaboration platform. I can add these responses to a project, and I can collaborate where others can validate results and add additional insights, again, accelerating the process. So now we have AI at the core of the workflow. Just to highlight one more thing, obviously we have the Agent Hub. which is running behind the scenes, the AI insights, where we can generate specific insights by executive like the CFO. We can do quite a bit of next generation forecasting as well. And then we have the data fabric where we connect with a number of systems, whether it be databases or ERPs. So this is a very flexible and platform designed to increase efficiency and speed and reduce costs somewhere in the range of 10 to 15%.
So I showed you that example in that demo to show that this isn't just concepts that we're talking about. This isn't just something that we are thinking about right now, that we are trying to figure out and that we will eventually do in the future. This is something that's being done right now. So think back to that thought exercise I gave earlier. Now think, how did that technology evolve in the last 20, 30, 40 years? What does it look like now? Is it a smartphone? Is it the EV cars? See, technology and change isn't so scary. It's just up to us to go through and to use what we know and to use what we're learning and use our accounting and finance skills to advance that. So I'm not going to take questions right now, but I'll take it after. We'll take them after Yatish's presentation. So I'm going to hand it over to Yatish, and we will